Hi everyone. So today we'll be going over the topic from Algebra 1, that is solving one-step equations. Usually it is taught during honors for 8th grade or during ninth grade. So let's go over the objectives. So the first thing we're going to do is identify linear equations in one variable, recognize coefficients and constants in an equation, and understanding the goal of solving a linear equation, finding the value of a variable that makes the equation true. Now let's talk about the vocabulary that I will be mentioning as we're discussing this topic. So we got variable, a symbol, often use x, y, or another letter, used to represent an unknown value of an equation. So you can see like any letters like what we just mentioned. So that's like when you're trying to find the value of the variable, which we will get into that very soon. Constant is a fixed number or value in an equation that does not change. So like an example of a constant can be like a whole numbers like 33, 333, and 777. Like those are examples of constants or other numbers, whole numbers. Coefficient is a number multiplied by a variable in an equation. So for example, you might see something like 10x, 7y, 13z, or even as a fraction, where you can have 1 over 4x. So you can see it many ways. Also for negatives as well, but we're just mainly focusing on positive numbers for this video. Now we have an equation, an expression with an equal sign. So an example would be like x plus 7 equals 12. You can see that there's an equal sign right over there. Then we got substitute, which is replace or switch. So we have this first problem right here where we are trying to solve for x. So our goal is to try to get this x by itself. So we have right here x plus 7 equals 24. So you might be wondering, how can we solve it? Well, in order to solve it, it's actually not as bad as you think it is. All you have to do is just subtract 7 to both sides. So you're not doing it to only one side, but you're also doing it to the other side. You can think of it as like a barrier. So let's just say you want to get into the gate, right? You can either climb over or climb under. Think of it that way. So you want to do the opposite of what you're supposed to do. So for addition, so you see here we have the plus 7. You're going to subtract 7. So you're going to minus 7. Because what happens right here is those 7s on the left side with the x cancels out. So you're left with x on the left side, and then equals 24 minus 7 gives you 17. So your x, so basically the solution is x equals 17. That's pretty much it. And keep a note in that, like I said before, imagine the equal sign is like a barrier or like a gate kind of thing. And you want to get to the other side. So you want to do the opposite to one side. Opposite of addition is subtraction and vice versa, meaning that the opposite of subtraction is addition. The opposite of multiplication is division and vice versa, meaning that the opposite of division is multiplication. Multiplying and divide are opposites, so keep in mind that the pairs is adding and subtracting, they go together, and multiplying and dividing are another pair. Keep that in mind because you don't want to confuse those two. Now, let's just say you want to check and see if it works. What you can do is just plug in 17 for x. In other words, substitute. You can substitute in x with 17. So when you plug in 17 instead of x, you'll have 17 plus 7 equals 24. So therefore, 24 equals 24. That deserves a check. That's a good way to show you just to make sure that you got the right solution for x. Let's go and do something else with problem number 2. We are going to solve for x. We have x minus 8 equals 32. So similarly from question number 1, we're going to add 8 to both sides. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So the opposite of subtraction is addition. So what happens here is that these 8s on the left side cancel out. Because when you do minus 8 and plus 8, that gives you a 0. So on the left side, you're just going to be left with x, and then 32 plus 8 equals 40. So your value of x is going to be 40. Now, to check it, like how we did for the first one, You just plug in 40 for x. 40 minus 8 equals 32. You can simplify the left side and you get 32 equals 32. So there, that means we're good. Check. Okay, let's say we have something like this. Solve for x, 7x equals 28. Now, you might be wondering, how do we solve for this? So, like I mentioned before, whenever you see a number in front of x, that is called a coefficient. In this case, whenever you see a number in front of x, that means it's being multiplied. So you might be wondering, how do we solve this? Well, you can just think about the opposite of multiplication. What is the opposite of multiplication? The answer is division. So what we're going to do is divide 7 to both sides. When you divide 7 to both sides, the 7 from the left side is going to cancel out. And you're going to be left with 7. And 28 divided by 7 is 4. So your answer for x is going to be x equals 4. Note that the number in front of the variable, like I mentioned, is called the coefficient. When you see a coefficient in front of the variable, meaning the number in front of the letter, you are going to divide. So it has to be a whole number. So something like what we just did just now. To check, you just do 7 times 4, right? 7 times x. So we're going to change that x to a 4. So 7 times 4, does that equal to 28? Yes, it does. So 28 equals 28. So we give it a check. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Let me know in the comments. Let's do question number 4 together. So we have 1x over 4 equals 12. So you might be wondering, what are we doing here? Well, when you have something like this, that means we have division because you have that number below it. So how do we approach this? All we have to do is just multiply the 4 to both sides. You might have remembered it when you were doing it in, I would say, like either in middle school, which is called keep, change, flip, where you keep the fraction, you change it to multiplication, and you flip the numbers. So the 1 is going to be at the bottom, and the 4 is going to be at the top. The numerator is going to be 4, and the denominator is going to be 1. So you're going to do 4 over 1 times 1x over 4 equals 12 times 4 over 1. When you simplify this a little bit more, you get 4x divided by 4 equals 48 over 1. We could simplify this a little bit more. What happened here is that when you can divide the 4 and the 4 together. They cancel out, and you're going to be left with only x. And 48 divided by 1, anything divided by 1 gets you that number. So in this case, it's going to be 48. So let's go and check out the other stuff right here. So we have note, like I said, the process is called the reciprocal. So in other words, it is also known as the keep, change, flip. So, and another way of writing these fractions is 1x over 4. I like to put the 1 in front because many people wonder, what is in front of x? You could think of it as 1 times x, and that gives you x over 4. So you could think of it as the following. 1x over 4 is also the same thing as 1 over 4x, where the x is next to it. And like I mentioned since the beginning, it is also the same thing as x over 4. So those 3 fractions that you see here, they all mean the same thing. So if you always get confused of what's in front of x when you see nothing in front of it, just put a 1 in front of it. And now we just do the check. So we just do 48 divided by 4 equals 12. Yes, it does. So you get 12 equals 12, which means our solution for x is correct. So you can give it a check. Now that we have discussed all of the ways of solving for x with one-step equations, I would like you guys to try out this question. This is basically a review of what we just discussed. Pause the video, and then we will continue this question together. Okay, hopefully you guys had plenty of time, so let's try to solve for x. So what we're going to do is subtract 9 to both sides, because the opposite of addition is subtraction. What happened here is that the 9's cancel out from the left side. So you're going to get x equals 7. Now you can check to make sure that x equals 7 by doing substitution. Substituting 7 for x, you get 7 plus 9 equals 16. So therefore, 16 equals 16. So that deserves a check. Okay. How about you guys try out this next question right here? X minus 12 equals 40. Try out this question, pause the video, and we'll be back. Okay, hopefully you guys had plenty of time for this, so let's try to solve for it. So what we're going to do is add 12 to both sides since we have a negative 12 on the left side, a minus 12. So we're going to add 12 to both sides. The 12 on the left side cancels out. That gives you a 0 and just leaves you with it leaves you with only x. And you get x equals 52. Now let's do the check. 52 minus 12 equals 40. Yes, it does. 40 equals 40. So which means x equals 52. Okay, try this one and we'll be back in just a moment. So hopefully you come up with the following. You're going to divide 4 to both sides since you're multiplying, right? The number in front of x means multiplication. So we are going to divide 4 to both sides. And when you do that, the 4's cancel out on the left side, leaving it with just x. And 36 divided by 4 gives you 9. So x equals 9. Now to do the check, 4 times 9, we're substituting 9 for x, equals 36. 4 times 9 is 36. So 36 equals 36. So that deserves a check. All right, let's try one more problem. So pause the video and give this a try. Hopefully you came up with a solution. So hopefully you got the following. We're going to multiply 8 to both sides. So you could think of it as keep, change, flip. So we have 8 over 1 times 1x over 8 equals 9 times 8 over 1. So you can have 8x over 8 equals 72 over 1. The 8's cancel out, and you're left with 72. When you do the check, you get 72 over 8 equals 9, and 9 equals 9. So that right there deserves a check. Alright guys, so we have reached the end of the video. So what did we learn from today's lesson? So we learned how to solve equations by using one step. So either we're using addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. Doing the opposites, another word for opposite is inverse. A lot of teachers like to use the word inverse. So when I start like doing other questions, we're going to use the word inverse. But we can use opposite. That's also fine too. And the opposite for addition is subtraction. Same thing for subtraction is addition. And the opposite of multiplication is division, and vice versa. Opposite of division is multiplication. Equal sign is like a barrier. You must do the opposite. So keep that in mind. So hopefully this helped you a lot more of understanding how to solve one-step equations. And if you have any questions, be sure to write it down in the comments below. Have a great day, everyone.